a look, and you'll be in your imagination.
Welcome to Duzie Live. It's the land of pure imagination. Let's just check your imagination level here in your prefrontal cortex and in your cerebellum and in your left and your right hemispheres.
Do you like the glasses? These are my quarantine house arrest glasses here.
So hats off to you. Thank you for coming. Those of you who have joined us live or those of you who are joining us on replay.
Today I had these glasses on holding in my frontal cortex.
Prefrontal
cortex.
We're going to learn about that in a little bit.
Right there.
Welcome,
everyone.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to know where in the world you're coming from right now. So just put that right down in the chat.
Where in the world are you?
Where in the world are you? What? So we have a great Duzie Live world, land of pure imagination to go into today with you. And we are so glad that you came.
You like my shirt? This shirt I've had since I was in college. I got this at a thrift store. Is this not amazing?
Okay, go on the back
side. This is my imagination shirt.
Look at it. It goes zap, flower, woom, pa.
I actually have two imagination because can't wear the same one every day. So this is one. I have another one that's a white one and I drew all over it. That I wore yesterday.
That's the one he created in yesterday. You're going to see more about that very, very soon. Hey, they're pouring in. You're pouring in. Okay, let's see who's here. I'm just going to give a shout out. First up in the chat, thank you very much, Elaine and Rian. They're coming from Wisconsin, but Rian is from South Africa, but he couldn't get out, so he gets to stay in with his fiance. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. More time together. And then Cyril from Germany. Thank you for joining us, Cyril. Michaela from Portugal. And Michaela sent me a note earlier. She's excited about imagination. And are we.
Oh, yeah.
Tammy's from West Africa. I was just on a house party chat with her, seeing her boy swim in the swimming pool. It's nice and warm there. Dale Potter is back with us again. Thank you, Dale. Dale came this morning. He has wisdom and so much to give, and we're glad you're in the house, Dale.
It's because this one is so amazing.
Illy from the Netherlands in Oman. Thank you. She's a grandma, and she's enjoying her beautiful little grandson and times. And Jacob Faulkner is coming into us from California.
Our special guest today.
So Jacob is going to be featured in his art, and we're going to have moments with him. Thanks, Jacob, for being in the house. Matthias,
hey, long time no see. Well, I can't see you, but
so excited that you've joined us. And Nikki, my Nikki girl. Woo! Yay, I'm glad you had some time to be able to join us.
Today is all about the land of pure imagination. When I was a kid, I remember this song, and this song really took me someplace. I believe it's probably one of the greatest songs of worship for me. I love this. I can imagine Adam when he was laying in the dirt, just waking up for the first time. He still had dirt on his face, and he's just waking up, and God is like leaning over him, and Adam is like, oh, what just happened to me? A moment ago, I was dirt. It's that kind of moment that, you felt that way in the morning before. Well, there's a song that comes from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I just want you to go through these lyrics because to me, this is like what the conversation would have been between God and Adam. And I sing this oftentimes, just connecting with God. Can you give me those lyrics?
God speaking these?
This is God speaking this.
Okay, so here's the lyrics. The land of pure imagination.
So God leans over Adam and says, come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What you'll see will defy explanation. But there's more. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world?
Yep.
There's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be.
Oh, preach it. Preach it.
That song goes very, very deep, really deep into me. And that's what we're looking at today. God has designed us to live in imagination. It is absolutely crucial that not only we have it, but we grow in it. So we're going to be looking at a few things today in respect to imagination.
So I just wonder, before we get into it, if you can just type right in the chat, what sparks your imagination? What brings the imagination out for you? What sparks you? What motivates you? Here's this song, Land of Pure Imagination, which this Duzie live webinar is titled on.
I have to, just before we hit the go button on the webinar, Susie and I had it pumping out in our house, singing it very, very loudly. And so it was an amazing moment. That sparks my imagination.
Good afternoon. Cheryl Potter, Dan's mom and dad are joining us also for the second time. I'm glad they're here because they produce this creative genius. Whoop, whoop,
and we're going to go back in time and look into some of where the imagination actually came from.
So the question is, what sparks your creative imagination? What inspires you? Music you listen to, people you chat with? I don't know what it's going to be, but
just take a moment, write it right in.
We'd love to hear from you, and we want to shout out what you've got written out there. That's so good.
What sparks your imagination?
Well, I am a person who, one of my strengths is input. So I need to see a lot of input, and I'm a little bit limited here in my lockdown, but I can go online, and I'm trying to do that, but I'm also trying to have physical books. And so creatively, I'm being inspired by exercise. I'm being inspired by doing hard things. And so people who are doing that, I'm getting some feedback. I'm of course, always inspired by Dan Potter. And I'm inspired by God and my times of connection with him.
I got something here from Elaine. Elaine says for her, it's music and cooking birds. Oh, no, it's cooking and birds. I like cooking birds. And art.
Chicken, right?
Watching Planet Earth. Well, I can open up my window right here. Look.
Planet Earth.
That's great.
All right. Tammy says daydreaming about other worlds. Thank you, Tammy.
So good.
Matt says Duzie sparks my imagination. Thanks for that shout out. Matt, if you don't know, will you just keep the chat space humming like you do so beautifully? Cyril says being out in nature. Me too. Me too. Michaela says reading, worship music, and the people around me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cheryl, Dan's mom and dad, big fans of ours. They say they've always sparked our imagination.
Now, just get this for a moment. If you are with me and my mother's there and you're laughing at something I've said, she will turn to you and say, don't encourage him. But she has spent her whole life encouraging him.
And I always encourage him.
Yes.
He always gives me a belly laugh every day, and it is worth it. He's very creative.
From Rian.
Rian says food, nature, photography, coffee, and prayer.
Ooh, yeah.
I was inspired yesterday by a photo I saw of you, Rian, yesterday doing your CrossFit with a huge log. Boy, do you have muscles, and well done keeping those pumping. Matt
I love cooking birds. I love that. I love it.
Oh, and Elaine says, and poetry.
Of course, poetry.
Elaine writes poetry, and she reads it with her legs crossed.
I can't wait till her first book comes out because it's amazing.
Dale says, the arts, finding something within the mundane, that's something new, different, that no one else may see in that thing. Simply trying to think outside the box.
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah.
Cyril says, hearing, reading, and watching things. Yeah, and Matt says, Elaine, your poetry sparked our imagination on the ship and at PST. Can't wait for your volume to come out.
That's right. Let it come out.
So true. So this is where we're going today. Today, we're saying you can live in a land of pure imagination by taking 2 steps. And these are the 2 parts for today.
The first step is you have to recapture your kid.
You know, Dan's going to lead us in that section. And the second step is rewire your brain. How can we rewire our brain and have neuroplasticity? You'll learn what that means.
And Susie's going to lead us into that section.
And I'm going to lead in that. So we're kind of doing our 2 babies today. So we are, we're
so here's
excited.
What we're doing. I've got 10 minutes. And in this 10 minutes, I am going to unpack imagination from my childhood, what led me there, why I didn't stop, and actually a few different things that I believe are absolutely important in the imagination process. So it's about 10 minutes long. We're keeping the chat open and we will be chatting with you. Any thoughts you have, just type them in there as we go along. But we're going to take this journey into the land of pure imagination. We invite you to sit back, relax, and this is a memoir of my imagination. And since I've just put this great introduction onto it, Susie's going to interrupt me. Why don't you do that now?
Okay.
Okay.
So I just want to remind you, please chat during the whole thing. You'll get more from it. Go.
Okay, where was I? Come with me. Oh, no, we did that part. I pushed the button. Here we go. No cooking birds. Why? Just watch the video.
See you in the chat space.
A memoir of imagination. I was born at a very young age with a great sense of imagination, as was every other human child who's ever been created in the image of God. My imagination grew as I was given permission to live fully alive by cultivating wonder, curiosity, and adventure, which I gladly did. I come from a very normal family of great Imagineers, people, simple people, who daily use stories from the past to build connections towards the future. I could not read until I was a teenager. I'm dyslexic, which means I am highly creative. My brain is always building new images and connections. Thus, letters and words and numbers and even concepts are always seen by my brain as new, like something I've never seen before. Thus, reading, writing, and arithmetic for me, they were quickly replaced by reinventing connections through creativity, change, and community. My mom, because I couldn't read, would tell me stories about God and our heritage. She would read Disney relentlessly to me, and my imagination grew wildly. My dad would take me to the wood shop and show me a dead tree stump. He would cut it into slices to show me what he could see on the inside. And then he would create from the stump a beautiful clock, just like he imagined. My great-grandfather, O.P. Eastman, would look across the river and create images of a bridge in his mind. He would later build those bridges all across Michigan. My grandpa Baldwin, on Thanksgiving Day, would look high up in the pine trees and point to one treetop. He could see in his imagination which top 8 feet would make the best Christmas tree. Then he would climb up the tree and bring it down for me to see. My Grandma B, as she lay on her deathbed, would lift her old, vein-covered hands and play the piano as she saw it in her imagination, just like it had always been at the edge of her fingerprints. Everyone, I believe, was created with imagination and expected to keep it growing throughout their whole life. But sadly, according to Professor Ken Robinson, kids today start losing their imagination as soon as they enter school. But that doesn't seem to bother most people because they only want kids to grow up and join the chorus of productive adults who long to exploit knowledge only to solve problems, rather than explore thinking through imagination to discover and rediscover several possibilities of connection. When I was 12 years old, I surprisingly learned that I had not lost my imagination. Up to that time, I believed everyone was living in the land of pure imagination. But then I preached my first sermon. It was at a church district event where teens could perform a talent. Now, I was a young magician, but they didn't have a category for me, so I chose preaching. And my 10-minute message was the gospel according to Willy Wonka. It was amazing. I talked about the golden ticket. Everyone on earth could find one. I talked about Jesus like the candy man. He could take the sunrise and sprinkle it with dew. He could take a rainbow and wrap it with a sigh. He could take tomorrow and dip it in a dream, all to make the world taste good. There were also the children in the chocolate factory, all who had received a golden ticket, but they lacked the fruit of the Spirit, especially self-control, and lost the treasure. But there was one named Charlie, who also had taken what was not his and touched what he was not supposed to touch, but through confession and connection, he won the heart of the Creator, thus winning the entire kingdom. Now, understand, the judges at this event, a panel of distinguished pastors, could not see what I could see. They told me this: stick to the word. Wow, it broke my heart, because I met God in that story, as well as so many others. The Wizard of Oz was clearly about God's value of thinking, having a heart, courage, and the sense of belonging. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was joyfully announcing the value of childlike imagination against the kingdom of darkness. There was Snow White, Cinderella, The Jungle Book, Pinocchio, and a host of other books and movies that took me into worlds much like my own, where new beginnings were possible through transformation, from death by resurrection into life. Only believe. Psalms 19:1-2 says, all heaven declares the glory of God. The skies proclaim the works of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. Look around. Look up. The sound of God's voice is everywhere. It's in our books and movies and songs. No matter who wrote them or who sung them, they're there. They're in our cities and in our country, in the oceans and the mountains, along the trails we walk, and in the places we dare not even go. God's storehouse is everywhere that imagination allows us to flow. But so many people I have met could not see any of this with their imagination. In Matthew 13:34 it says, Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. He was talking to people's imagination, giving them something to explore rather than a piece of knowledge to exploit. He did not come to solve a problem through grand pieces of information, but instead, he came that we might have life through imagination. I have faithfully attended 4 different Bible colleges and universities, all preparing me to communicate the gospel of Jesus to the next generation around the world. But none of them, that's right, none of them offered courses on imagination, parables, or storytelling. But that is exactly how Jesus changed the world. If we have faith, according to Hebrews 11:6, we have chosen to believe with our imagination that God exists and that God, whom we imagine, will reward us when we seek him through our imagination. And it is impossible to please God without the belief we have seen in our imagination, which is also called faith. Read the whole chapter of Hebrews 11. It is all about people who saw and experienced God through their imagination. I belong to the greatest nation on earth, and it is called imagination. It is the place from which I see light, I live life, and I love myself, my world, and my God. It's interesting that the word imagination comes from 2 very important words, image and notion. Image is something you can see, but also we must remember that we were created in the image of God. Notion, on the other hand, is a conception or belief about something. So imagination must be a place in our brain which is like God, that enables us to be able to conceive or believe something not real into reality. Thus, we must recapture our imagination by returning to our sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure. The modern world leads us to believe there are only 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. But imagination also demands we explore our forgotten sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure. I am who I am today because I live fully alive through my imagination. I hear God's voice. I dream his dreams. I see his kingdom coming. I create unforgettable moments. I experience the future. And I work in the power of God's Spirit because imagination for me is real. I choose to believe, and so can you. The Passion Translation in Matthew 18:3 puts it this way: learn this well. Unless you dramatically change your way of thinking and become teachable and learn about heaven's kingdom realm with wide-eyed wonder of a child, you will never be able to enter in. May you be blessed to see your life, your world, and your God vividly and with vibrancy as you recapture your God-given imagination through a sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure, to believe beyond what your eyes can see. This has been my memoir of imagination.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dan, for all that work. You should have seen him yesterday. He was out on the front porch for the entire day. I mean, his lifetime has been the preparation time for this, of course. But then yesterday, he took the entire day because he wanted to put it down exactly how he wanted. He spent the whole day.
It wasn't any research. It was just taking the stuff that was in my head.
Yeah, he had
and just dumping them into a document.
I didn't disturb him at all. He was just in the zone, and we have a beautiful product.
The document is going to grow and become a little booklet about imagination. It's also all going to be available in the Flow course.
Yeah, so I just want to do a call out. We've got our 2 courses. One is Relaunch Your Life, how to live fully alive, and what are the rhythms, the values, your community, so that you can live your passion fully. And then the second course is called Flow, and it's about how to follow the Father, observe your We talked about fear. What is it? F-L-O.
Fear.
Observe your fear and cough. And what's the next part? Brain freeze.
Okay, it's courageous, and then it's imagination.
Yeah, go for it. Okay.
Okay.
So this one is the one that's coming soon, right?
Yeah. Yep, this is coming. We got a few things coming. Dale, you're saying, like our eyes cannot see air, but it's substance us. Without breath, there is no life. How true that is. How true that is.
So I just want to put it out there. So imagination and creativity, when something grabs us, we have to grab it back, and then we have to investigate it, and then we have to transform it into something useful in our lives. So I want to invite you right now to just share what grabbed you from Dan's memoir of imagination.
So just take a moment and just write that in the side there. And while you're doing that, something I have seen in the process, especially yesterday, of wonder, curiosity, and adventure, was that thing inside the head that is, it's just, what could this be? It's the asking the questions, where curiosity is a little more stepping forward and having a little bit of movement, maybe touching it or turning it. There's a little more action there. And then adventure is you throw on the backpack and you move out. I think it's a progression. I think they're all needed. We highly undervalue wonder. We have to be people of wonder. Nothing is going to be reinvented. There's no medicines that are going to come unless we daydream a little bit to think what could be. And then we have to be a little curious. What if these two things come together? What if we also add this one? And then finally, we need to move that place of throwing the backpack and move fully into it.
So Matt says, love that, Dan. There's so much good in that. It's such a shame that education as it is today seems to strip us of or bury our imagination. What do you think can be done about that? How can we help to nurture the imagination and wonder of children rather than kill it?
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is we have to understand what really is real. And God created us with the imagination. There's a 3-part series in TED Talks by Sir Ken Robinson that if you watch them and watch them in order, watch the first one, he waited 5 years, did another one, waited 3 years and did another one. But it's all about this imagination, creativity, and education systems today. It is brilliant. I think the best thing that has ever been written or spoken about it, he's really nailed it there. That's probably why I think he's the #1 TED Talk ever in history.
Yeah.
But that's Sir Ken Robinson on TED Talk. He would answer some of those questions.
And we want to come back to your comments, so keep putting them in the chat. And meanwhile, we've got our guest of honor, Jacob Faulkner, in the house. So Jacob, welcome. We're going to try to get you on.
Hello.
Yeah, you made it. Hi, Jacob.
Hi.
So Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What's a piece of your life?
So I'm 16 years old and I now live in San Diego, California, but I lived in Porto, Portugal for about 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. And so Jacob is our featured artist, and I'm going to pop your picture up here while we talk, Jacob, if that's okay.
All right.
So last week you were at our Duzie Live and we were talking about seeds of imagination. And shortly after that, Jacob floats me this amazing piece of art. And can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So this piece was actually for my art final at school, but the theme of it is growth. And it's really representing reaching upwards, breaking away from our old worldly, earthly habits and tendencies, and reaching upwards to fullness of life with Jesus and with God.
Wow. So growth, reaching upwards, fullness. That's awesome. So here's a couple more, a little bit more detail. Tell us about this. Dan particularly likes
I love
scene.
the fact that this guy is bald. It's just like, yes.
Call out to baldness. What made you take it from the face, the shoulders, the head? What was going on in your mind when you were doing this particular part?
I really just wanted to do from the shoulders up and make it a really simple silhouette so that the main focus could be just the details of the flowers and the idea as a whole. So that's why the background is really simple and you just have them looking upwards with their eyes closed, kind of representing that it's more mental growth inside their head. That's why their eyes are closed. Yeah.
I think it's a perfect picture for imagination.
What is the name of this piece of art? Do you have a name for it?
I actually haven't made one, but I definitely should.
Oh.
Yeah. Tell us about the flowers and like placement of them. What made you choose these flowers popping up, the growth picture for us? They're
flowers because I think growth and imagination are really a beautiful thing. And I think those flowers represent that well. And they're kind of reaching up out of that dark box, kind of almost like outside the box to reach upwards towards new ideas and towards God.
So good.
Oh, such a picture. I mean, for us, this is a picture of real pure imagination and living in the land of pure imagination. How long have you been doing art, Jacob?
Probably ever since, since I was like 5 years old. Yeah.
What are your favorite mediums of art?
So I really like this medium, which is just pen and ink. But I also really enjoy watercolor. And I'm trying to get better oil and acrylic, doing more traditional painting.
Okay. So Jacob is a teen that we've known for a number of years from our MTO camp. And every year we have space where we really highly promote art and the processing of life. Many of our worship times are very art-filled. And Jacob always comes out with these imaginative, really amazing works of art. You could just like live off of the selling of your art. But tell me about imagination and some of the thoughts. what kind of thought process happens for you when you're thinking about preparing for the art?
Usually I'm trying to take some kind of abstract idea or something that people wouldn't normally think about visually and turn it into some kind of visual. So that's really what I did in this piece and what I've been doing recently. Yeah.
Now we got some questions, it looks like, for you as well from the chat.
Okay, let's see. So Matt says, Jacob, that's a really striking piece of art. Love your explanation of what inspired it. Yeah, and Elaine and Rian are asking, has anyone seen the movie Wonder? It's an amazing movie. Have you seen it?
I have. I love that movie.
It's great.
Okay, what do you love about that movie, Jacob?
I think it's for those who haven't seen it, it's a movie about, it's the boy who has a facial disorder where he has a distorted face, but he really learns how to open up to people and finds friendship with others, and is able to show his imagination to other people and build a community with that.
Oh, I haven't
He's
seen
the astronaut kid, right?
Yes, yeah. He puts the thing, helmet on.
Oh, that's awesome. Jacob, so if you could say anything to us about imagination to encourage us to have it, what would you say?
Oh my. I think don't discourage your own imagination just because you don't know what other people might think about it, but really be open to your own ideas and share them with other people.
Awesome. We have a question from Katz. Yay, Katz, you're on. What inspires your imagination, Jacob?
Oh my. Really other artists, whether it be with visual art or even music. I love listening to music when I do art because it really inspires me.
What kind of music is your favorite inspiring music?
There is this one artist right now I really like. His name is Sleeping at Last, and he did a whole album based off of the Enneagram, and those songs really inspire me. I love those ones.
That's cool.
I have a podcast that has all of them on. Did you know that?
Oh, really? That's
there's
cool.
a podcast where they talk about those songs and explain it.
Listen to that.
It's amazing.
It's really good. Yeah.
And Elaine and Rian want to know, how do you continue to inspire your own imagination when yourself or others combat it?
I think that's really hard because you can get in a place where you feel very stuck and you sometimes even yourself, you don't have any ideas. And I think that's when you can start taking inspiration from other people you see with really imaginative ideas. I think it's good to try and find a community of people that are open to imagination and that can encourage you in it.
That's good.
All right.
One thing about Jacob that I love is that you are a multifaceted artist. I know you love doing art and drawing, different kinds of art, gymnastics. What else is in that pool of creativity for you?
I just started, well, no, I did not just start. I've been playing the ukulele for a while, but I just started trying to get better at it and maybe even start writing like poems or songs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do it. I can't wait to hear.
I noticed that about a lot of people who dive deep into imagination. It's not just in one area. It's
multifaceted.
Multifaceted.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's always growing and evolving and changing.
Yeah, you're a beautiful diamond, and you have so many cuts already that really display the beauty. And may you continue to have more cuts and let that amazingness that God has really wired you with. Beautiful. Matt Taylor says, whoop, whoop, love the gymnastics and the ukulele.
Thank you.
And Elaine and Rian say that great response and thanks so much for the valuable feedback.
Yeah. One thing I was looking at yesterday when I was writing was this phrase. It didn't make the cut of the video, but it's the whole idea that imagination will help someone create the bridge, build the bridge, but imagination also will take you to the point to jump off the bridge. And I think that's where I think, especially what you said about community, it's absolutely important.
Yeah.
Within our imagination, we can't just sit in solitude. We've got to have other people speak into the process. And I know you're a community guy and you have that. But my hope and my blessing for you would be that you would continue building those bridges and moving forward for you and for others.
Not necessarily jumping off like, oh, the jumping off, but jumping off in like adventure.
Yes.
Yeah, doing like the bungee jump kind of jumping off.
Leap safely.
So Jacob, if people want to follow your work, where can we find you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really have any social media platforms that I'm on. So as of right now, there's not really anywhere you can follow me. But I think when I get older, I will definitely start posting more art pieces.
Okay.
All right. Well, I have a special request. Every time you do an art piece, please send it to us. We're big fans of you.
Okay, I will.
And thank you so much for sending us this piece, this nameless piece that will probably get a name. Are you taking suggestions for names? Maybe somebody here live. Yeah, if you've got an idea for Jacob of what he could call it.
Yeah, definitely.
You get to name it, but maybe you can take inspiration from others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacob, so much for joining us. And thanks for being on Duzie Live. Stick with us and we'll keep chatting with you.
All right.
God bless you. See you soon. Keep making art with your great imagination.
All right.
God bless
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Wow, that was fun.
Daniel Satterley is in the house. Woo! Welcome. Daniel says, just a comment on the piece of art. It's super interesting how you put a lot of flowers and not just one. Underlines what Dan just said about imagination being multifaceted. Yeah, that's very true, Daniel. Thank you for noticing that.
I love this question from Tammy. What is the difference between imagination and memory? Oh, that is, I think I could write a book on that one. I think our imagination is built many times from the experiences that are stored in our memory. I believe memory is absolutely important. And we have to really look at, because sometimes if we're carrying around a memory of fear, it will not allow us to move into the imagination of a better future. And so we need to balance those out. As Suzie talks about the brain, we're going to look at how to move forward from memory into imagination. I think they're both absolutely incredible, but they are two different things, but definitely connected. Imagination is that eye that sees what doesn't exist and then brings it into memory, where the brings it into reality, where memory is much more that storehouse of these are things I've experienced as possible or not possible. And it's sort of like on the back burner, you've got the eggs boiling, that's memory. But on the front burner, you've got someone flipping the eggs, that's imagination.
Yeah, and studies show just on that same on that same point, that imagination comes from stored memories within. And then all of the stuff that we put in allows us to have that imagination and boil out. So memory is necessary to have imagination, but then imagination takes it further and then hopefully puts that back in your memory again. So it's like a two-way process, backwards and forwards.
My brother's naming it Seeds of Mind. Seeds of Mind.
Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, stick in the space and give us your comments.
There may have been some things back in. Let's rewind for a moment. Anything else?
Matt, did we miss anything else? You just let us know if we missed something else. Now, do we want to have experience?
I do. I want to take you into an experience for a second. And this experience is in your mind, your imagination. So I want you to, wherever, I think you're probably sitting someplace. Hopefully you're sitting someplace. I want you to look to the right of where you're sitting, and right there on the floor, there's a box. Okay. I just want you to look at the box that you see for a moment.
Imagine it.
Okay. Look at the box. Take a good look at it. Now, what are the dimensions of the box that you see? How wide is it? How high? How deep? If you would, in the chat, just write the dimensions. What size box did you just see when you looked over there? Just take a moment and type those in.
It could be metric. It could be imperial. It doesn't matter. Whatever your measurements are. What does the box look like, and what is it made of, and what size is it?
This is in your imagination. Take a moment. Just write down what's the dimensions of the box.
Don't be influenced by anybody else. This is your own imagination.
So once you've typed in the dimensions, I need you to do something with the box. So quickly type in the dimensions, take a good look at it. What's the size of the box? Now, if you would, take the box, get off your chair, whatever, and just pick it up for a moment. Just pick it up in your imagination, and approximately, what do you think is the weight of the box? Don't open it. Please don't open the box. All I want you to do,
how heavy
whatever
is it?
size it is, how heavy is it? And you can just give a rough guess. If you don't know, you can just say it's the same weight as my cat or the same weight as the chair. I don't really care, but I want you to pick it up. If you're able to pick it up, if you need someone else to help you, you can imagine that person helping you pick it up. But I want you to put, what is the weight of the box that you've just picked up?
So keep
Now,
typing it in.
If it's really heavy, please use good lifting posture. We don't want anyone hurting themselves on the box. So once you've picked it up, you can place it back down, and simply in the chat, write down the weight of the box you just picked up.
This is our imagination. There are no wrong answers. Everybody's probably going to have a unique experience here.
Okay, so here we go. This is where it gets really fun. In a moment, not yet, please don't do it yet. In a moment, I want you to imagine opening that box. If it's small, if it's large, I want you to...
If it has a lid or not, it doesn't matter.
Open that box. And inside, I'm going to tell you already, because I've seen this box, there are two things inside the box. One thing inside the box is something you've been looking for a very long time. And the other is something that surprises you. Now, don't tell me what they are. Please don't type that in. But I want you to just look in the box.
If your box is too high, get on a stool or a chair or a ladder.
So
get up there and have a look.
The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look and see what is in the box that is something you've been looking for. Make a mental note of that. And then take a good look at whatever it is in your box that surprises you. Okay? Get those in your head. Something you've been looking for and something that surprises you. Now, here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to tell me yet what those two things are, but if you would, write down how much those two things together, and maybe the box as well, is worth. What is the value, of that? So just type in the amount of money, whatever currency, how much is that actually worth? If you were to buy it or if you were to sell it, what's the worth of those two items and the box? Please type that in.
Daniel needs a crowbar. He can't get his open.
Oh,
Somebody help him.
He's got a wooden
Somebody
crate.
help him. Could be metal.
It could be. It could be a container.
Yeah.
How did you get that container in your house, Daniel? Okay, so take a moment and write down, what do you think those two items together are worth?
I love this. Too heavy and fragile. It's priceless. Many people, $100. Nikki's got $100 content.
It's good.
She's good with values.
Okay, so now that you're looking at both of them, just if you would tell me, what is the main color that you see when you look at those two items? What's the main color that you see? Go just write that in there. Whatever color it is, even if it's multiple colors, write the main color that you see when you look in your box.
Daniel wants to know what the second item was.
The second item, well, there was the dimensions, and then there was the weight. The first item is something that you've been looking for. The second item was something that surprises you. Something that's like, oh, I didn't expect that to be in the box.
Okay, we see a black color, a red color. Matt's on the fly. Thank you, Matt. Brown box.
It's good.
Okay, we got a $45 one, a $90 one.
Yeah.
We had less than $5. Brown, beige,
blue.
blue. Michaela,
Nice.
I'm not surprised yours
Nice.
is blue. That's
Nice.
awesome.
Okay, now here comes the toughest question. One of those two items you get to keep. The other item you have to give away or throw away. One of them you're going to keep. The other one you're going to throw away. So it doesn't matter if it's what you've been looking for or if it's a surprise. You need to choose which one are you keeping and which one are you going to throw away.
Meanwhile, we got blues and purples, magentas and cream. We've got such variety of color here.
Okay, so now you've made the most important decision. You can't keep both. One of them in a few moments, you're going to put back in the box and you're going to put it outside and someone's going to take it. The other one you're going to keep. If you would right now, write down what is it in the box that you want to keep and what is it that you're going to get rid of. Would you take a moment and write that down?
Totally keeping the candle, Elaine and Rian says. The surprise is what I will keep. Cheryl says Dad's is clock parts and extra motors. That's what he's keeping. And Tammy said the one that surprised me, I'm keeping. I guess it's a secret. I'm keeping what I was looking for, Jacob said. Also, maybe a private item there.
It's good.
That's okay.
It's good. Keep these rolling a little bit.
What are you keeping? Maybe some of you say, I don't know, I didn't get that picture. It's just, you got, sometimes I have a picture in my mind, but I can't put words to it. So some of you might be on that. Dale says a multicolored painted stone.
Is that what you're keeping that one, I imagine?
Cheryl says mine is a Keurig and surprised by extra coffee and tea.
Ooh, nice.
Daniel says keeping the handcrafted pocket knife and giving away the Jack coin in the box. Really surprised me. Okay. Nikki's keeping the comfortable black heels.
Nice.
Love that.
Nice.
Matt's stuck. Can somebody get the crowbar over to Matt and help get him unstuck?
Stuck in the box, or did the box fall on you? What happened there?
Dad's keeping parts.
Keeping the parts.
Matt's going to close the box and try again.
Maybe there's something else going to be in there this time.
And Illy's keeping a beautiful
wrapped in gold
color.
Yeah.
Okay. And Rian's keeping what surprised him. I guess he's not telling about that either. And Dale's throwing away the shoelace I was trying to find.
Get rid of that thing.
Don't need that, obviously. This is awesome.
So what this was, this is just an experience in your imagination.
Good job, everybody.
I sat in my hot tub outside and I had this incredible conversation with God. We went to Starbucks together. We had
love this.
Hot chocolate together.
Tell about it.
It was the most amazing experience. I just sat there in my hot tub early morning and I said, God, I want to imagine us having an amazing moment here. And it was like my mind said, well, let's go to Starbucks. And I thought, well, I don't drink coffee, but you know that. And suddenly we were there at Starbucks and he's making me this hot chocolate, not hot cocoa, not the fake stuff, hot chocolate with the real chocolate. And he turns and he looks at me and he says, this is going to be really good because the cow that the milk came from, I created that. And the beans that the cocoa comes from, I created that. And I put something a little bit special in for you. And my imagination was me drinking it. And it was like, that is the best thing I have ever tasted in my life. And we had this conversation going and he leaned forward and he looked around. He said, Dan, what do you want? It was like the conversation sort of went dead. And I thought, wait, should I be telling you what I want or should I just be kneeling here? He says, let's skip the formalities. What do you want? And I thought, well, Father, I want influence. I want influence to help people love themselves, love their world, and love you. And then I stopped and, oh, I'm sorry. I should have said wisdom, shouldn't I, God? And he laughed a little bit. And I said, because if I would have said wisdom, I would then know how to influence people to love themselves and the world and God. But I really want to have influence, but wisdom too. And I was back and forth and he laughed and he said, don't worry about it. We went on and we talked about all kinds of things. It was like he was saying, this is what I'm talking about, practicing the presence of God. Yeah. And I was practicing that. And then I said, oh, God, I have to leave now. And he said, that's all right. I'll go with you. And then he said a word that he often says to me in my imagination, always. It was like, always. He was like, yeah, I am always with you. You always can meet me in your imagination. And it was such a joyful time. It was such a moment of, oh yeah, this is sweet. That all took place in my imagination, but it was so real and God was there. And it was an amazing moment.
That's awesome.
I'll let you go into rewiring the brain.
Okay. I just want to have a little, read a little note. This is Elaine. I know this is her story. This is awesome. Actually, that experience came from last week because Helen, one of our friends, Helen, was talking about going somewhere with God, right? And you're like, I'm doing it. This is Elaine. She has that experience. When I was in college, Papa God and I went on dates. I would dress up and make a reservation at a restaurant, then would eat there and journal. And then on the way home, I would pick up flowers like they were from Papa. I love that. That is pure imagination right there. And Tammy says, by the way, Papa must be using my name as well. I sent them the link to get in here. Oh, good. So my parents are also on. That's awesome. That's amazing. Thanks. So we want to jump now into
switching gears.
Yeah. So this is a little video, 2-minute video. And this video is about how we can rewire our brain. We've been talking about how you can live in a land of pure imagination by taking 2 steps. And Dan was telling us about recapturing your kids. So don't forget about that. Keep that humming. But secondly, we want to look at how we rewire our brain. And here's a video that I want us to see about what's called neuroplasticity.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
I love that. I love that. So this is neuroplasticity and the adaptability of the brain. And what I especially love is those neural pathways that we can reinforce some of them and stop others. We have 8.6 billion neurons connectors that help us think, feel, do, and they strengthen our pathways. And what we need to do many times is rewire our brains by making good, solid choices of what we want to think and what we want our imagination to look like. And I want to talk about how we rewire our brain. We've got an amazing imagination, and I'm going to show you a bunch of slides of information, and I'm just going to pick out little bits of it. I wish we had a day or a week to do this, but
all these things are available in our course on imagination.
Yeah, coming
when it
soon.
Comes out.
Coming very soon. So imagination allows us to have multiple effects. There are positive effects and there are negative effects that happen with our imagination depending on what kind of neural pathways, like we just saw in that neuroplasticity video. So in the brain, in brain imaging, imagination has allowed technology to develop ways of even seeing what's going on in our brain. And I really love what keeps coming out all the time. But when they do the imaging of the brain, they notice that these connected neurons that form pathways, they have two versions of what shows up on radiology or the light imaging, and the positive ones show up as light. And I find that very interesting, that God is light and in him there is no darkness at all. So those are the God positive aspects that show up neurally in our brain. Well, the networks or the trees, some people call them trees, pathways, roads, these neuron connection points, these pathways, the ones that are negative, they show up dark. So science calls these faith-based light thoughts and fear-based dark thoughts. And I think this also goes along with what the Bible talks about in that. Now, here's a picture, and we won't go through it all, but did you know this about our mind-body connection? Down the bottom, you can boost your immune system, which we need right now, by focusing on the positive light emotions. Positive emotions can increase the brain's ability to make good decisions. If you go up into the top right corner, negative emotions, these dark ones, can create nervous system chaos, but positive emotions can do the opposite. They can give us peace and freedom. And then the human heart's like a magnetic field. Down to the bottom, the other side, positive emotions create psychological benefits in your body. Let's explore that just a little bit. And again, this imagination and the technology and the research is allowing us to find out what these neural pathways are doing, what responses are doing in our body as well. Don't forget about those neural pathways or those roads that can be developed. As we strengthen them, they get thicker like wide roads or freeways. The ones we don't use can be like an old road that nobody's walked on or used, like, and the grass grows up. It's as if those pathways were never there. They just are like they're pruned off, they're cut off because we don't use them. And this is about being transformed by renewing our mind, like Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 talk about, or 2 Corinthians 10:5, where we capture every thought and we make it obedient to Christ. We can choose what neural pathways we make. Now, normally when we're thinking about the brain, we have scientists always talked about the left brain and the right brain. So the left brain is the analytic, the scientific, the detail-oriented, the reason side of it. And then the right brain is for the creatives, right? Passion, vivid, creative, yearning, peace. And so those were the only two ways that we thought you could think. Well, so here's again, like the right brain functions: art, creativity, imagination, intuition. You can see that list there. And the left brain functions: analytic, thought, logic, language is in that side as well, science, math, numbers, and right hand control. But new scientific pieces of information come out that we have two other parts of our brain that are also very much involved with imagination and creativity. Would you be my demo person? So we've got the prefrontal cortex right here. Oh, you've got your prefrontal cortex glasses on, do you? So here in this space, this is where normally we have our emotions, our judgment, planning, strategy comes from this part of our brain. And that part is vital for imagination. Another place that's vital for imagination is the cerebellum. It's way down here in the base of your spinal, right at the top of your spinal cord, but at the base of your brain. And the cerebellum is in charge just basically of movement, habits, and things we do.
Jacob, this is where my flowers come from, my cerebellum.
So what the studies are finding is that the combination of all of these, so the right and the left brain functions are happening. You know, you got the big picture to small detail, and small detail, the big picture. And you have the emotions, the judgment, the planning, and you have the cerebellum movements that are happening. And studies are saying that, yes, we can have imagination, we can have creative ideas coming up from us, but Then we also need in the cerebellum part to be being involved in doing something with the imagination. And as you do something, there is more imagination that comes and more decisions and creativity can be made. So don't just think about it, but get in the thick of us. Tell us about Thomas Edison.
Well, Thomas Edison, he did this thing. He was a great inventor. He's one of my heroes, but he would take a penny. And you may have heard the term until the penny drops. That's like the moment of eureka, the wow. And he would take a penny and he would put it between his knees and he would take a nap. And as his knees relaxed, his knees would open up and the penny would drop and he had a metal pan on the floor.
It would wake him.
And so it would go king and he'd wake up. And that moment where he woke up was the moment where he had his greatest ideas and he would go and he would just start writing them down. And that's when the penny dropped. That's when he wrote out his great ideas. And he has more U.S. patents than anyone else ever in the history of the USA.
Yeah, so thank you. The other thing that he did often is he did the motor activity, did something physically. He didn't only have ideas from the prefrontal and the right and the left, but he combined all these areas of his brain. Now, what happens when we have some effects of the imagination? Stage 1, stimuli comes in. And normally we say there are 5 different senses, but the studies are finding more. There's pain receptors and what else?
Sense of balance,
spatial awareness,
sense of belonging.
Many studies also say that imagination is another sense. Anyways, we get the stimuli, and then stage 2, the brain deciphers whether the stimulus is a threat or a non-threat. So this is the potential fear response. Our body gears up to respond somehow. If we find that it's not a threat, then it jumps to stage 4. But stage 3, the body stays ready until the threat is over. In stage 4, the body returns to normality and peace and calmness. But it's in those moments when we get stimuli that imagination can happen. So your emotions affect your body organs as well. And so when you have something come like this stimulus, then there are always chemicals released in your body. And just like we have the light and the dark thoughts and the brain connections, the pathways in our brain, we also have positive and negative hormones or chemicals that are released in multiple spaces in our body to gear us up for whatever our perception or our imagination is of the situation. So let's look, for example, at stress. So this could be a negative, like, oh, we're feeling stress. And that top part shows what's going on in our body. But look at the bodily effects of these chemicals released in our body to do things like increase our heart rate. The liver converts glycogen to glucose, so we have the energy needed to do what we need to do. Decreased digestive system or inactivity because we don't need to digest food at the moment. That's not the most important. Our blood pressure goes up, so we're ready, like to jump or do what we need to. The dilation of the bronchioles, so we get more air and more oxygen into that space. So our body responds. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. But when we have those anxiety moments, it has effects physically in our body. But likewise, like those negative effects, when we have those positive imagination, then we have possibilities that are released into our body as well. And here's something that is really, I love this. This is just like an imaging, the relationship between emotional states and the synthesis of neurotransmitters and blood. So this is just blood moving. And I would love to talk about all of them, but I want to just highlight 2 in particular. Look at happiness and enthusiasm. These are possibility mindsets, light-oriented thoughts. Look at how the blood fills the entire body in that peaceful space. Serenity or peace or stillness. It is in our mind and the general part of our body. I find it interesting that anger, in contrast, there's nothing in our central vital organ space that is lit up with extra blood flow. It's all in our neck and our extremities, our arms and our legs.
Because it's preparing you to fight.
Yeah, that's
Anger,
right.
yeah.
That's right. So we have the possibility to go up in our perspective or down. And the upward spiral causes all of those different possibilities. And the downward spiral has completely opposite and different possibilities as well. Now, here's another scan. This is body temperature scan in the midst of, whatever we're feeling, whatever we're imagining that situation to be. And I want to highlight again, look at that happiness body imaging. It is warm colors and it lights the whole body, and especially bright is the heart and the mind. And I find that interesting because in Philippians 4, it talks about then he will give us peace in our heart and our mind, right? And Colossians talks about setting our heart and our mind on things above where Christ is seated in the right hand of God. And that imaging really portrays that peaceful space with God. By contrast, in particular, look at depression. This is a blue, cold body temperature imaging. And again, like anger, it's on the extremities and not in our centers of life. Emotions harm your body and your overall health. Let's just look at a few of these. Anger hits the liver, shock your kidneys, stress weakens your heart and your brain. Worry gets to the stomach. Some of us have experienced this. Fear affects the adrenals and the kidneys. Anxiety affects digestion. And sadness weakens the lungs. Wow, just so many body-mind images. On the flip, positive side, here are positive reasons. Positivity is good for your heart. Laughter makes your blood flow. Hugs release oxytocin. This is the connecting hormone and removes the stress from your body. Some of us who are in lockdown, who are with less hugs than we normally get, need to find new ways for oxytocin. But I love this one. When you meet someone that your heart is crazy for, your heart gets a workout. Awesome. Spending time with a loved one lowers blood pressure
across the world is going down because people are spending more time with loved ones.
Hopefully. Love letters lower blood cholesterol. Holding hands calms the nerves. And a positive attitude lowers the risk of heart attack. So imagination affects. Neurologically, they say that when you imagine a situation and when you're in the reality of the situation, they're very similar in what happens in your body and in your mind. The only difference is when it's an imagination, it goes from, they call it bottom up or top down. It's the direction of the flow of neural connections. It's just a directional difference, but the same thing basically is happening. The mind has limitless power. Let's highlight two spots here. One, your conscious mind controls your brain activity about 5% of the day, and your unconscious or subliminal thoughts controls brain activity in your thoughts 95% of the day. Some studies say 98% of the day. That's why it's important what we meditate on, what we put inside, because those subconscious will allow those neural pathways that are bright or dark to keep going. You have 70,000 thoughts per day. This is one study, but it's something similar to that. Dr. Caroline Leaf says that every 20 seconds, we have an opportunity to choose to imagine to be in that light space or that dark space. What will we choose? Because it's going to have an effect.
Does anyone feel like you're drinking out of a fire hydrant right now? I mean, this is incredible stuff.
Thank you. I'm just like so alive in it. So I'm just fire hosing you. But what it boils down to imaginations, what we say with our words, what we do with our behaviors, what we feel with our emotions. The mind and the body connection is going to have an effect somehow. We get to choose what that effect is, and that neuroplasticity, we can rewire our brain for good, for positive, for life, for peace. So what are the words that you're saying? What are the behaviors you're doing and repeating to do? What are those emotions that you're allowing yourself to feel and just putting them in the space where God is, and really being mindful and examining what these areas of our life are are doing and what's happening inside our mind and our brain, because those neural pathways are going to happen. And hopefully what we have in our brain are these bright neural pathway trees all throughout our brain, and that we cut off or we decrease or we travel less on those pathways that are really not pleasing to God and are not good for giving us that fully alive life. So imaginations does have an effect. And there you go. There was the fire hose. Would love to hear what you're thinking about that.
If you can process a little bit of that, give me some of your thoughts there. Wow.
Yeah.
Where do we go back to?
Jacob says a mental block starts with fear and manifests itself into a habit. You must go back to when the initial fear started and use visualization or imagination to remove the fear and build confidence.
Great,
thank you, Jacob. That's what we're just talking about here. While I'm just reading some of these comments already, thank you for them. I'd love to know, what is your highlight or new awareness from this Duzie Live so far? Yeah. It could either be from Dan's part about recapturing the kid and imagination or rewiring your brain. We'd love to hear and be able to talk about that. And Matt says, I enjoy that diagram that has the left and the right sides of the brain on the opposite sides of the screen. Left brain on the right side of the screen. Yeah, you love the way it was opposite. Did that like flip with your imagination? Matt says, thanks, Jacob. It's really interesting. Are there any particular questions, processes, which can help you identify the fear and remove it? Great question, Matt. Elaine says, so fun to hear your great facts, knowledge about coins, Dan. Cool story, Matthias says. And Matt says, drowning, Dan. And right now, part of my job is designing a fire hydrant system.
Don't mix it up with the water fountain. Okay, don't mix those two up.
All right. I know we've gone over our 1 hour time, but we just want to stay here for anyone who's really still interested in having this chat and keeping going. We completely understand.
You also can come into the room if you want and put your hand up. We can have you come in and we can talk.
You can tell a story, ask a question, give a comment, share an emotional outburst.
So there's two things, though, I'd like you to do before you leave, whenever you have to leave. One is, please write your highlight or new awareness from anything from this Duzie Live. New highlight or awareness, new awareness from anything we've said. And the other thing is, if this Duzie Live has brought value to your life, we would like to ask you to tell a friend. We want to produce this for small or large number, but we don't know at this point how to market it. So if you are finding value in this, please pass that on to others, that others can also find value from these moments.
Jacob asked, when is your course on imagination coming out? Very soon. It's inside of our flow course, and I'll put the link right here in case you're not in it. But we decided we were going to finish it last week, and we were like, there's too much in imagination. We can't do it. We have to have another Duzie Live. This week, we have two different ideas of what we're going to do next week. Maybe more on imagination and maybe more on something else. I don't know if we're going to say.
Go ahead, you can say.
We're thinking about, in this time, we would like to just tackle the whole concept of grief, the grief cycle, which equals transition cycle.
Because one of the next steps of grief, there are several steps of grief, but one is finding meaning in grief, which is actually the good grief, and I want to call it good grief. So right now we're back and forth. Do we talk one more week on imagination and get some special guests in to talk, or do we move on to good grief and really hit something where probably a lot of us are there right now, as we've lost freedom to just do whatever we want at the moment. So we're back and forth to look. If you have any ideas of which one you would like us to go towards, eventually we're going to get to one on simply courageous imagination.
Yeah, the combination of courage and imagination. The road
a little bit.
Yeah, the imagination module will be coming out soon. It is our goal, Jacob, to have it by the end of this week. So we don't want to just rush the process, because we really wanted to have this time with you. And it has been such a high value for us to have you guys there. And it gives us a little bit more direction how to finish off that module. So coming soon. Matt's voting for more imagination for one more week. Rian says Dan's video was inspiring. Thank you. Cheryl says, a favorite new saying I found, C.S. Lewis, we are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dreams.
It's true.
Awesome. Matt says, every week I'm telling people about this. Duzie Live is amazing. And I always feel more alive during and afterwards. Thank you, Matt. We feel alive when you're a part of it as well. Dale?
And again, any of you that are watching, you ever have any ideas how to make it better?
We want to hear
something different. Help us create this.
Yeah. Dale says this science is a new process to most people. It's not an easy thing to overcome. It is not simply a mind over matter. Seek assistance with people who truly understand the science and our ability to change and build neuroplasticity.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for that. Dale is Dan's brother, and he's a therapist, so he is very active in helping people transform their brain. And sometimes, depending on the situation and the person, it takes a season. And it takes some professional help.
He's one of our research people as well.
Yeah.
Always giving us
Thank
new
you,
ideas.
Dale,
Thank
for
you.
so much of this information that you just sent my way. We love that. And Elaine says, I so appreciated the inspiration and encouragement to continue to imagine. I also was so intrigued and interested by the temperature diagrams and body muscles color diagrams that you were showing, Suzie. So interesting. Yeah. We are fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And when I see things like that, I'm just blown away as well. It just captures me. And it really motivates me to be very mindful and to take the needed steps to do the right thing inside of my mind and with my body so that I can be the highest level of health, and so that I can be fully alive.
You know what all this makes me think? I think that God made our brain. Yeah. I think he put this together in such a special way that we need to continue to explore the thinking that's going on there. Not just look for knowledge and sort of exploit it just to answer a question or to win the argument, but really step into, if God has created this brain to be so absolutely incredible, we need to use our imagination to explore, God, what would you take us to next? There are promised lands out there, and we're stopping at the Jordan River, and it's time to open up some things, probably rivers that were put there by maybe a school teacher or someone who said, you can't go there. That's childish. That's baloney. Heap that water down in Adam. That's where it was at. Cross that river, and it's time to bring down some walls because of imagination.
Yeah. So Matt and Dale say a bit more imagination. I would say Dale says it's a critical thing during this time of isolation and stress. It's true. We need more art. So thank you, Jacob, for showing and inspiring us to do art. I'm going to try to do art this week as well.
Today?
I don't know if it'll come out today, but definitely in the coming days. Michaela says, my highlights, new awareness are the Land of Pure Imagination song. The fact that it is good to, and we should feel wonder and curiosity. I also had no idea that our emotions have so many impacts physically. Yeah, let's be serious about it.
If you're sitting home in these days and you don't know what to do, I would challenge you to watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Not just because it's my favorite movie. It's a movie that has so much in there that if you use your imagination, you can look through and see, wow, they've painted this wall, but beyond that wall, they're saying something really, really deep. And our imaginations can take us there. So I just want to challenge you, if you've already watched the Tiger King 100 times on Netflix and you're tired of it, go back to some of the classics that actually you need a mind to use.
Yeah. And Pixar has one called Inside Out, and it examines your emotions if you need a refresher on that. Illy says, our emotions affect our body and our health. We have to choose very carefully. With imagination, we can create positive thoughts, which has healthy effects. Amen, sister.
That's good.
Nikki says, my takeaways, having a more imaginative time with God. Yes, do it. Nikki, you are
so
a
woman
creative.
of imagination.
Yes.
Take that into your moments with God.
Yes.
Be an explorer, not an exploiter.
Daniel Satterley says, I'm with Matt on this one. Imagination for one more week, please. Thanks, guys. We're hearing it. And Dale says, I love the ideas Willy Wonka's song being worship. Yeah. I challenge you to look at everything in a different way. We were having a chat with David Taylor, Matt's brother, after our morning Duzie Live this morning. And we were talking about creativity and putting two things together. Can you just speak a little bit about that? Because that can help us in our imagination as well.
Well, God has created these narrow pathways in our head that we join two things that don't normally go together. And that is the way all creativity moves forward. When I sit down and I listen to a song, I wish you could look at my worship playlist on my phone. You would not recognize any of the stuff. None of the stuff is ever sung on Sunday morning. But these songs, I have discovered things. I have said, wow, they're talking about that, and that touches this place in my life.
Yeah.
There's a
Put
song.
two things together.
There's a song by Kenny Loggins that I looked at a long time ago, and it's called Lorraine. And Lorraine, it's this incredible song about my love for God. It is just, there's nothing else it could be except my love for God when you hear this, but yet it talks about Lorraine. And then one day I was like, God, why did this singer call it Lorraine when it should be something else? And he said, look again. And I looked again, and it was, it isn't Lorraine, it's Lord Rain. How? Everything made sense because the author thought it was Lorraine out of this incredible depth that God was giving him, but it was Lord Rain. Look for those things. You'll find them.
Cyril says, this inspires me to intentionally explore imagination. Use it to live life fully alive while choosing to grow good brain connections. Yes, me too, Cyril.
You're a world changer. God is going to use your mind in incredible ways, way beyond what you can even imagine.
Michaela says, my mom loves using Inside Out for coaching, that movie. And Dale said, did you discuss the dream journal? Can you tell us about a dream journal?
Oh, the dream journal. I don't think I talked about it.
No, well, the idea is imagination. There are a number of things that affect imaginations. We've been talking about it, but research shows that especially business-oriented people, when you're trying to come up with ideas like that, some of the things that happen, you're like trying to mentally come up with something, everything's in place, you're trying to use all the parts of your brain. What you need to do is walk away and do some kind of exercise. They say walking is very powerful for illuminating imagination. You walk away because things just come up in the midst of it. Another place is sleeping. So when you go into REM sleep, it happens. And then as you're coming out of that REM sleep, it's important to have a dream journal, right?
And I keep one of these two journals with me most of the time, and they're just full of dreams and ideas and thoughts. This one,
daydreams and night dreams.
This one I carry with me because I have daytime dreams. This one is at night. And oftentimes in the middle of the night, I wake up with something, and you know what? If I don't write it down right then, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I have been programming my brain lately. I want to choose what I'm going to think in the night. So that's what I put into my head before I go to sleep. Almost always, either in the middle of the night or first thing I wake up, there's stuff there. And I write and I write. The last probably month of this journal is full of some thoughts. I have never thought about imagination before. I wish I could just open it up and read it because it's like unbelievable stuff.
To be published soon, I hope.
Curated in my head. Is that right? Curated in my head while I slept.
Yeah.
So dream journal, absolutely must if you're going to move in imagination.
Dan is one of the people that I know that has the highest levels of creative imagination. Go, Dan. I love to promote that. His parents are very funny. His mom, whenever Dan does something funny or unique or whatever, I always laugh, and she says, don't encourage him. But I can't help but encourage him because it's good. And belly laughs are good for health. And he helps me have those. I just read an email just today after our other Duzie Live that says, this is from Tyndale Bible NLT promotion. And it talks about salt plus light equals stories. And I love that. But they said, these are the things that came by accident. Like somebody was just trying to think of something else. They went out for a walk or they had a dream and it just like happened. These are the list: penicillin, saccharin, Coca-Cola, the microwave oven, and the pacemaker. They all have something in common, and that is they came by accident. So they were just imagining, free thinking. They were in that space where they were allowed their brain to think freely, and they came up with these things that make such a difference in our world.
Just to let you know, if you're a person that's like, I would love to step into some songs and find God in places that I don't normally maybe look for it, I would recommend to start with, let me put this up here, Leap of Faith by Kenny Loggins. There is stuff that...
It's an album, right?
It's an album. You probably don't have a way to play an album, but you could Spotify it or something. But Leap of Faith, because it's all about faith. And there's one song, I can't remember which one it is. It could be nothing except a conversation between Jesus and Peter after Peter denies him. The song is like, oh, unbelievable. And you can just see that. But to me, then I can't go back to the real world. What in the world were they talking about here? Because it is so obvious. This is a chat between Jesus and Peter after go feed my sheep. Yeah. So anyway, I find those great. I have a whole list of those things, and I love it.
Matt says Dmitry Mendeleev, is that how you say his name? Pretty much dreamed up the periodic table of elements. So chemistry. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Elaine and Rian have to go. Thank you. Bless you. Yeah. So any other highlights, new awareness, creative thoughts, resources? Again, a plug for our flow course and this module on imagination that's coming out this week, probably the end of the week. Those of you who are already in the course, you'll get an email when that goes live. And you can also just be praying for us to be able to put it out in a way that's, compact enough. This is our challenge, compact enough and yet adding value to people to be able to learn and to have imagination.
Yeah.
Like I believe last week and this week is, and it appears that next week is a bit more imagination. So whoop, whoop.
Thank you, Jacob, for coming on and sharing your art and sharing your story. Thank you for all of you joining us during this time. I have had a blast.
Yeah, so we've loved our live interaction. It is completely different, our 9 a.m. one and our 2 p.m. one, depending on who's in the room. We have the basic elements, and yet it changes. So you make a difference to us, and we want to thank you so much for showing up, because you have given this space your particular touch that only you can give, and that just has been very valuable to us. And again, if this has brought you value, we encourage you to tell a friend and bring them and have these conversations together.
The video I made called Memoirs of Imagination is on our YouTube channel, Duzie Potter, and you can go there and watch it, share it with other people. It's free. It's going to be in the course with a little more explanation, but it's just, I threw it out there for anyone who wants to use it. I'm going to put it up on our socials probably as soon as we're done here.
Dale recommends his worship songs. I think fusion jazz.
Oh, yeah.
And that can really bring you a great worship time. Matt says, adios, Elaine and Rian. Jacob said, I loved hearing about how our feelings can affect our physical health. Yep. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jacob, for that. And Jacob, thanks again for being with us. So keep pouring out that art and send it to me. Thank you. And Neely says, you both are increasing my imagination with your lots of ideas and huge enthusiasm. Thank you for teaching us. It was our honor.
I had a bell. I'd ring it. I thought I had a bell here.
Well, just ring your own bell. Ding, ding. Thank you for teaching us. We feel like this is some of our eagling moments, which we love to do. And Cyril says, thanks, Duzie. Very inspiring how you not only share, but really live this and are really enthusiastic about it. Yes. And it's going to get more, because we're getting more and more and more freedom. The cage doors are open, our wings are out, and we're flying. And of course, U2 music, Dale recommends as well. Yeah. Thank you so much. We have loved our moments together with you. Thank you for all of you who stuck around for this long, for those of you who are live, and for those who joined us on replay. Thank you so much.
We are loving life.
And seeing good days.
Talk to you next week. You have to push the button.
Come with me and you'll see be in a land of pure imagination.
Push the button. Push
Okay,
the
bye.
button.
We love
Push
you
the
all.
button. Again.